She doesn't. I've already spoken to her.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the worshipful, the Mayor.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening to you all. So let's proceed with the meeting. Firstly, please may I ask you to remain standing whilst I invite this evening's chaplain, Reverend Dr. Ruth Midcalf, to come forward to say a few words. And can I invite those who wish to withdraw from the audium during prayers to do so now? Thank you. We are very blessed to have Reverend Dr. Ruth Midcalf here this evening, who is the Methodist Superintendent for Basingstoke and Reading, the Minister for Tadley and Silchester, and she's also the chaplain to 2403 Aldermaston Squadron Air Training Corps, which is based in our borough. Thank you.
Good evening to you all. It's my great privilege to be with you this evening. We read in John's Gospel, chapter 15 and verse 12, these words of Jesus. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. I do indeed have the great privilege of serving as chaplain to 2403 Aldermaston Squadron of the Air Cadets based in Tadley, and as part of their regular Padres Hour slots, we often refer to the core values of the cadets: respect, integrity, service, and excellence. Through a range of activities, we think about what it means to respect each other and about the importance of self-respect. We reflect on the importance of honesty and trust and the courage that's often needed to act with integrity, to do what we believe to be right. When we think about service, we recognise the value of collaboration, of loyalty and commitment. And we encourage each other to strive for excellence at all times, recognising that cadets are not just cadets when they're on squadron, but wherever they are. These RISE values, respect, integrity, service and excellence, are of course not just applicable to the RAF Air Cadets. As each one of us rises to the opportunities and the challenges that we face, and as you do so this evening, may you do so with respect for each other and self, with integrity, serving the needs of others, and do all these things with excellence. For in doing so, you will reflect the love of the Lord Jesus. Let us pray. Loving God, we pray for the communities represented here across the Basingstoke and Deane borough. We pray for all who live and work in these communities. We pray for the work of the voluntary groups. We pray for this council and for the meeting this evening, for the opportunities and the challenges that will be faced here, for the points on which there will be agreement and those on which there will be differing views. Pour out your blessing on this meeting, we pray, and help all here to show and share your love in all that is said, in all that is done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Midcalf. Very nice words. Right, please can everybody be seated, and can the councillors who chose not to be in come in, please? And wait, I don't know how many stayed out. Thank you, those were lovely words. Right, so if we start the meeting now. If we could start with apologies for absence. I currently have Councillors Grant, Hussey, McCormick, Mellor and Vokes. Are there any others? Yes. Councillor Harvey? Sorry, Councillor? Maitland, okay. Excellent. Councillor Rattigan? Sorry?
Councillor Margaret Feld may be late.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rattigan. Councillor Gavin James, do you have? No. And is that Councillor Woolridge? No? Just. Brilliant. Okay, now, yes, hang on a second. I'm just trying to work out. That is Councillor Mamalanini, please. Sorry? Okay, is he not coming? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Ajit Peter is not coming. Thank you very much, Councillor Mamalanini. Right. We move on to the next item, which is declarations of interest. Are there any interest regarding items on the agenda that members wish to declare? None? Okay, brilliant. We move to the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of May 2021. They're on pages 9 to 30. I move that the minutes of the meeting be signed as a correct record. If everybody is happy, I will move that they are a correct record. Are you all happy? Excellent. Thank you. Okay, I have a few things to say this evening. And then I understand that the leader would like to say a few words. The Chief Executive has no announcements to make this evening. Firstly, it's great to be back at the Haymarket. Yet again, we can't thank Matthew Cleaver and his outstanding team for letting us be here once more. As many of you know, the civic building where our chamber is based is still a building site. Sadly, I don't have access to the Mayor's Parlour either. I have to say that all these upheavals loaded on top of the pandemic are extremely disorientating for us all. But I know we have a great leadership team, and I am sure that with their leadership, we shall pull through this current disarray stronger and better placed to serve the residents, the interests of our residents and our community. A quick bit of history. A few of you said you enjoyed being here last time and felt a strong sense of positive energy. What I did not know at the time was that council meetings used to take place here at the Haymarket Theatre. I learnt this when reading up on the history of our mayoralty. The mayor's chair in our chamber is Victorian, and the story was that it was originally a basic chair which had had the top added, hence the struts at the back. But it transpires this story wasn't true, and the struts are there because the chair was broken when the council meetings were held here in the Haymarket Theatre, and the chair had to be taken in via a window, and on one occasion it was dropped. I asked our new Chief Executive, Russell O'Keefe, if we could reintroduce the tradition for tonight, but sadly he refused. Mind you, I was only teasing. This chair's fine. I wouldn't want to be responsible for the Mayor's chair being broken again. So my first 6 weeks have been a whirlwind. I've met many wonderful residents and organisations already. In terms of civic events, the Armed Forces flag-raising ceremony was a huge success, despite the inclement weather. We were most fortunate to have Brigadier Alan Richmond, OBE, who retired in February, making a moving speech about everything that the armed forces represent, what they're up to at present, and what they do for us. We were also honoured to have two of our Sea Cadets, Leading Cadet Georgia Rendell and Leading Cadet Aaron Campbell from Basingstoke and Dean's Sea Cadets, pipe and raise the flag this year. They fulfilled their role immaculately. We were also incredibly lucky to have the leader of the Army Cadet Force and Corps of Drums in Basingstoke, Mike Bowler, join us on that rainy day. Luckily, I had a great conversation with him afterwards. Very sadly, he passed away this week, and our former Mayor, Councillor Diane Taylor, had presented him with the Mayor's Awards earlier on this year for his amazing physical challenges and his work to inspire and encourage children and young people. Over the years, Mike has been an incredible supporter of the Army Cadets, the band, our community, and our mayoralty. And on behalf of the borough, I send our prayers to his family at this difficult time. Similarly, the NHS and Frontline Workers' Day was a great success too. However, we were most fortunate that the sun shone. Dr. Claire Thomas, who is a consultant microbiologist and hospital director of infection prevention and control during the first and the second wave, gave a great speech, and Tony Ebden, one of our brilliant bin men crew, raised the flag. At both occasions, Reverend Canon Linda Scard said some very moving words and prayers, and to such a degree that she reduced one of our guests representing our frontline workers to tears. We thank all of those who supported both these civic events and for everything they do for our community. Finally, I wish to thank Ross and his events team and all their wonderful support volunteers for the amazing Basingstoke Festival. I was honoured to open the festival with wonderful music from the Bollywood Brass Band and stunning dancing from Carla the Arts. It was a huge success over 3 weekends and weeks, and well done to the whole team. Well done. This year, as you all know, a large number of long-standing councillors have left the council. We have lost not only friends and colleagues, but also a wealth of invaluable knowledge and experience. Sadly, due to current rules, I am not permitted to hand out our public service certificates. So I will read out the names of the former councillors who will be receiving public service certificates in 2021. I am advised that these certificates will be sent out around the end of July. So, on behalf of the council and the residents, we thank the following former councillors for their dedication to public service and their tireless commitment to their residents and our community at large. So I'm going to read it in alphabetical order. Chloe Ashfield, number of years public service 5, Whitchurch. Michael Bound, 13, Borkhurst and Tadley. Tony Capon, 2, Kempshot. Ruth Cooper, 3, Winklebury. Jack Cousins, 9, Kings Furlong and Brooksville. Jane Frankham, 23, Popley West, and Mayor for years 2016-2017. Paul Frankham, 22, Popley West, and Mayor years 2017 to 2018. Roger Gardner, 25, Caliva, Mayor 2014-2015. Dave George, 3, Whitchurch. Ryan Hickling, 2, Eastrop. Sean Keating, 21, South Ham. Mayor 2018-2019. Claire Kinnear, 2, Kingsclear. Warwick Ludgrove, 21, Borkhurst and Tadley North, Mayor 2007-2008. Colin Regan, 9, South Ham. Terry Reid, 11, Hatchwarren and Beggarwood. David Potter, 9, Popley East. Clive Sanders, 15, East Woody, and leader of the council for 7 years until 2019. Elaine Still, 19, Chinham. Kim Taylor, 3, Brighton Hill North. Mark Taylor, 7, Brighton Hill North. Michael Westbrook, 7, Kings Furlong and Brookvale. Janet Westbrook, 5, Popley East. So thank you everybody for indulging me and listening to my announcements. If the leader would now like to say a few words, I understand he wishes to talk about the new Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, councillors, just to formally inform you that the Equalities, Diversity and Inclusion Forum is now being set up. I'd like to thank my fellow group leaders, Andy, Paul and Gavin, for their support in this. It was very notable that the chaplain's words of love thy neighbour and respect, integrity, service and excellence were laid out, and I hope that through this forum and through the chairmanship of Councillor Dan Putty, that we will be able to engage with partners to facilitate an understanding of every challenge that we have, whether that be small or large, and to ensure that we are a much more inclusive borough than we have been in the past, and to improve community action at every level. So I look forward to the forum being set, and all of you to work with it, to challenge us in what we do, but also to challenge our partners to make them work harder and better for our borough. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Leader. Right. Now we move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is questions from members of the public. We have received one question from the public, and it is from Ms. Francesca Mariton. And is Ms. Mariton going to come down to the front, or is she going to take a speaker at the back? You're going to come to the front? Brilliant. Okay. Ms. Mariton, we welcome you, and we thank you for coming this evening and for engaging in our local democracy. You have 2 minutes in total, and after that you can ask a supplementary question, but it must arise directly out of your question or the reply that you receive from the Cabinet member, which will be Councillor Tristram Robinson. Thank you. Please may you ask your question.
Good evening. I was asked to leave my mask on. If you can't hear what I'm saying, raise your hands. At the Cabinet meeting on the 9th of March 2021, when the covenant maintaining 180 Culver Road for child services was overturned unanimously by Cabinet, Councillor Simon Bound stated that we are not in the game of moving problems about, but in the game of solving problems. Two Saints, the likely operator of the proposed new homeless shelter at 180 Culver Road, has confirmed in correspondence with me that we need to work alongside a wide range of agencies, including police, community safety teams, drug and alcohol services, mental health teams, and community groups to enable our clients to access the support they need. Could the Cabinet member explain how moving a hostel from the town centre, with its close proximity and easy access to all such services, to a residential community further away, populated by older, more vulnerable adults and young families, helps to solve the underlying causes of homelessness and the challenges that it poses in our borough?
Thank you, Ms. Mariton. I think Councillor Robinson's going to take this. Tristan, please, if you could answer Ms. Mariton, that'd be great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mrs. Mariton, for your question. The proposed new supported housing scheme at Culver Road, I completely understand, is a concern to local residents. It's a key component of this council strategy to prevent homelessness and eradicate rough sleeping. It's one of the measures that the council and its social inclusion partnership partners are taking to maintain the incredible record achieved in 2020 of having no rough sleepers on our streets, and to support our most vulnerable residents to achieve independence. The proposals at Culver Road follow careful consideration of a number of alternative options in recent years. As I mentioned at Cabinet, over 8 sites have been considered over the last 8 to 10 years, and none of them fitted the bill, unfortunately. Some of those sites were in the council's ownership, and others were owned by partners. Culver Road is indeed an established residential area, and it's right that we should locate new supported living schemes within integrated communities rather than excluding vulnerable residents from living in residential areas simply because they may have become homeless. The location and the attributes at Culver Road were among the factors which led to a decision taken with partners, and it is ideally located and connected given its close proximity to the town centre but not being on top of it. I think it's also worth noting that the current homeless facility that we have at May Place, while much loved, is no longer fit for purpose. It is in close proximity to drinking establishments, and the ASB and disturbance caused to hostel residents as a result. The physical limitations of that site prevent any adaptations or retrofit improvements to be undertaken, There is no outside amenity space, and the building abuts immediately onto the road. As a result, the site at Culver Road has been taken forward by the council. The planning application has been submitted by Two Saints Housing Association, and we believe that it is an appropriate location for such a facility. Very happy to take a supplementary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Would you like to ask a supplementary?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, I think you've got 1 minute, or is it? No, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My supplementary concerns the feelings of safety and security that residents believe will be eroded. The current hostel is in a primarily commercial area. Its predecessor, Beechwood Lodge, was built in a non-residential area when it replaced Nelson Lodge, also a non-residential area. Why does it now make sense to move it to an exclusively residential area? And will the Cabinet member agree to carry out a full and robust risk assessment and impact assessment and make the findings public? Further, will he agree that the Cordell-Culver Road community, including residents of the hostel, will be afforded the same protection as is currently the case at the top of town, such as comprehensive CCTV, police and community support patrols, and extension of the proposed PSPO area?
Thank you very much. In terms of the location, I think it's really important that we not seek to isolate people who have potentially been isolated previously, and that has led to some of the problems. That's why it is considered that locating this within a residential area rather than a commercial area is positive. It is within easy reach of the town centre, but not on top of it, so that there aren't other associated issues. I do completely understand that residents in Caldell Road and Culver Road have concerns. I'm very happy to meet them. I think it's worth mentioning I'd also like to thank Councillor Sam Jeans and Councillor Aaron Mamalaneni, who I visited the site with 2 weeks ago, the week before last, and we walked some of the local area, and they outlined to me some of the concerns that residents such as yourself have had. In response to that, we've spoken to the community safety team, and they have agreed at the request of local residents to up the number of local community safety patrols in that area. We're also looking at things such as CCTV, because you're absolutely right, that's really important. There will be CCTV, certainly, outside the building itself, but whether there are other appropriate locations in the community, that can certainly be looked at, and we're more than happy to work constructively on any suggestions that residents might have. I should say equally, I'm more than happy to meet local residents as well with the local ward councillors, Councillor Jeans, Councillor Mamalaneni and Councillor Howard Sorrell, if that's helpful too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Portfolio Holder. Thank you very much, Ms. Maritain. Have a nice evening. I don't know, if you want to leave, you're very welcome to leave, but you can stay if you want. Perfect. Right. We now have 2 petitions, and the first one is Councillor Harvey has a petition to submit to Council. Just to say, because I didn't say at the beginning, we're going to time all of the speaking as per the Constitution for the meeting, and each petition contributor has 5 minutes. For the new councillors who've never been here before, we have these in the chamber as well. The time is set. It's obviously green whilst you're allowed to speak, and the amber goes off when you've got 1 more minute to speak, and the red is when you've got to stop. And we're going to be quite strict on that. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey, would you like to talk to your petition about increased parking permit charges?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank the 443 signatories, local residents who signed the petition in support of the argument that the increase in parking permit charges is exorbitant and a serious concern to them. Many of them were angry at the lack of information and the short notice, with letters being received by many of them days before the 1st of April. And I can assure you it was no April Fool to them being told that the parking charges were going to be increased from £25 to well near 80. Many of them did not expect that level of hike. They were not prepared for that level of hike, nor can many of them afford that level of hike in parking permit charges. Many of them who do not have off-road access rely on those parking permits and rely on the on-road parking available. Many of those people have to fight for that parking because that parking is not enough in those streets, around the station, around our particular ward, for everybody to have a parking space in that way. So this increase came as not only a surprise to many, it came as a hike they couldn't afford, it came as an imposition on them that they really were not expecting and had not been telegraphed appropriately or properly. Let alone the principle of the matter. Many residents, as I say, could not easily afford to see such a hike in charges. I mean, it was all right if you think about an inflationary increase, but we're not talking about an inflationary increase. We're talking about £25 to well over £80 for the permits. And I don't know about you, but if your pocket is tight, particularly during COVID and the pandemic, that is not an easy thing to stump up on the 1st of April when you got the letter a few days beforehand. Residents want the permit schemes because they have protected them historically from commuters. They have protected their ability to park near their homes. Not immediately outside their homes, I think many accept that, but near their homes nonetheless. This decision doesn't protect residents from the unjust fare hikes at all. And if its excuse is, well, we need to equalise it across the whole of the county council, we have this situation with Hampshire where we equalise our fares across the whole of Hampshire. Well, why in the world is Basingstoke and Deane bending to the will of the county council in that regard when it's our residents that are penalised to this extent? So there is an argument, I think, here between the borough council and the county council to be managed effectively and appropriately in favour and support of our residents. And this is just not happening. It didn't happen in this case. And you can understand the anger that came back as a result of that from the conversations we have had with many, many residents. So in presenting this petition, not just here, it will be presented to the county council as well. But in presenting it here, we hope to have a genuine conversation with the cabinet member and hope that something can be done to support those residents. Because, as I say, it isn't an inflationary increase, and a lot of the budget increases were, quite happily put in the Gazette and were quite happily promoted as being no more than inflation, no more than inflation. And as I say, it came as quite a surprise to a lot of people. There are significant issues around parking in our streets, in our wards. I'm sure you have all got casework regarding parking. I tell you, around the station it is an issue, not only in our ward, but in Brookvale and the wards around the station. So I hope we can have a genuine conversation about what we can do to support those residents, and I look forward to having that with a cabinet member. And I present the petition with 443 signatures and ask it to be treated appropriately. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. This petition will now go to, because obviously with pandemic we can't take receipt, etc. This will now go to Councillor Hayley Eachus, the portfolio holder responsible. And I look forward to her responding to that. Thank you. Right, we come to our next petition, and we have David Orchard and Stephanie Coombs, who wish to submit a petition regarding 180 Culver Road. Would one of you like to come up and say a few words? Thank you very much. Again, same thing, 5 minutes. You might like to have a look here when yellow's, I don't know. You might not be able to see it. Never mind. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Orchard, and I'm here with Steph, another local resident, to present a petition in relation to the proposed change of use of 180 Culver Road. The number of signatures on this petition demonstrates the extraordinary strength of feeling shown by residents living in Culver Road, Cordell Road, and Charles Richards Close, where the properties are specifically for the elderly or disabled, against the proposal for a hostel to accommodate 23 homeless persons. We wish to make it clear that we are not in any way opposed to housing the homeless, but Culver Road as the location is inappropriate. This petition has also been signed by other people who live nearby and regularly use the footpath through the estate past 180 Culver Road, for instance, when taking their children to school. No formal planning application has yet been seen. Whilst Two Saints has informed a small number of local residents of its plans, they have avoided publicising the development more widely or holding an open exhibition or public meeting with residents. Two Saints, it seems, do not want a transparent, full and open public consultation. This residential area is characterised by its green open spaces, where children play in safety without the need for supervision, and where residents meet to chat with their neighbours throughout the year. The area at the top of the hill has the atmosphere of a quiet little village. Residents are concerned that this freedom and feelings of security would be destroyed if the proposed new building goes ahead. We are told by Two Saints that some of the occupants of the proposed new building are likely to have alcohol and drug dependencies, and local residents report that this can presently be seen in the vicinity of May Place. Not long ago, our local newspaper reported that someone living at May Place was in court for dealing in drugs. And this week, just the 12th of July, the official Facebook page, BasingstokeGov, tells that another person from May Place has been apprehended and due to appear in court charged with burglary. It is unreasonable that this kind of behaviour be transferred into the residential area around Culver Road. We appreciate the number of problems that the inhabitants of the proposed hostel may suffer from, but it is unreasonable to aggravate the circumstances of existing residents in our area, a number of whom already have problems of their own. It is clear that the proposed building and its tenants would disrupt the feeling of safety and neighbourliness presently enjoyed by existing residents. It has been suggested that security could be boosted by closed-circuit television, more police or PCSO patrols. But that is exactly what we, the existing residents, do not want. More accurately, we do not want the need for such measures. And so the petitioners urge the council to withdraw its support for a hostel for the homeless in this location and help Two Saints to find a more suitable site. Thank you for the opportunity to present this petition.
David, thank you very much for those words, and you're well within your time limit. Your petition will now go to Councillor Tristan Robinson, the portfolio holder responsible for this matter. And as I said to one of your fellow colleagues, thank you for engaging in local democracy. I know it's a huge commitment to come as a member of the public and engage, but we appreciate it. And thank you very much. Again, if you wish to leave, we won't be offended because the rest of the events probably are not of interest to you. Right. We now move on to resignations and appointments, but you're obviously very welcome to stay if you want. Right. The first thing is to receive resignations from committees and to make any necessary reappointments. Members, are there any resignations for any committees, and do we need to make any necessary reappointments? Any hands up? No? Leader, please.
Nothing from me, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming there's nothing. Right, perfect. And we move on to receiving resignations from outside bodies. Members, do I have any nominations for current vacancies for our outside bodies? None? Okay, perfect. Right, so we move now to agenda number 8, which is the Mal's lifts replacement and refurbishment. And this is requiring us, as per the agenda item on page 33, we are seeking Council's approval of the addition to the Council's capital programme of a scheme to replace lifts 4 and 5 at the Mal's, with approval to spend in 2021-2022 and 22-23 to be funded from capital in the sum of £300,000. I understand Councillor Hannah Golding will propose this request for approval. You have 5 minutes in which to propose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no intention of taking a full 5 minutes, I can assure you. Lifts are exciting, but probably not that. So, the Mal's are a key part of our town centre, though, and it's therefore vital that the council support it to regain its vibrancy during COVID recovery. There are many things we're working on as a council to encourage this, like the recently very successful Basingstoke Festival, which brought many people safely back into our town centre, as well as new markets that will be starting soon and providing shopfront grants. But sometimes purely practical action is needed to improve experience for local businesses and their customers, and this is a good example. There are 5 lifts in the Mal's, 3 by the main shopping square and 2 by the Anvil. Following on from Cabinet approval of the refurbishments to the lifts in the square, approval is now sought for Council to add £300,000 to replace the lifts by the Mal's. The Anvil lifts are currently not robust enough to serve the residents and visitors who use them, and we have seen too many breakdowns in the recent past. This cannot continue, and therefore the best solution is to replace these lifts, which also gives us the option of larger capacity lifts, which would help maintain the peak flow before and after performances at the Anvil, where it's always busy. We want to see people return to enjoy our town centre with confidence, and one of the first things they will experience is the journey from the car park. And therefore, I commend this paper to Council and ask for your support this evening in approving the addition to the capital programme. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Golding. Councillor Stuart Frost, I understand you will second this recommendation. Do you wish to speak now or to reserve your right to speak later? Okay. For the benefit of everyone, Councillor Frost has said he'd like to reserve his right to speak later. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this recommendation? Yes. Councillor James, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will support this. The performance of the lifts has been very up and down in recent years, and therefore I think we should all support this. Thank you.
Right. Is there anybody else that would like to contribute to this? Are we all agreed then? Approved? Okay. Thank you very much. Right. Moving on. We now move to the capital programme outturn. And as per the agenda on page 44, we are seeking Council to note paras 1.1 to 1.8 and Council's approval for paras 1.9 to 1.11. I understand that Councillor John Isaac will propose this request for approval. Councillor Isaac, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. As you say, this is the capital programme outturn report for 2020-21. The report records 12.4% underspend on the capital programme, some £4.5 million. Much of this has been caused by delays arising from the pandemic. But this council has maintained a significant capital investment programme over the year of £32.39 million. Arising from the Cabinet meeting in July, Council is asked to approve tonight capital programme changes in Appendix 3, including scheme veerments relating to the Aquadrome, open space improvements and the Wade Road washdown facility. Secondly, an increase in the Aquadrome asset management expenditure of £524,000, funded from a rephasing of £383,000 from future years' funding for sports and recreation, section 106, and a further £141,000 funded from capital receipts. And thirdly, a revised capital programme for 21-22 and attendant programme financing. I just want to highlight the asset management works to our Aquadrome, which are needed to ensure that over the short to medium term it continues to offer good, safe facilities for our residents and their families. It's a very popular facility, as we know. The works required follow a condition survey for us by ACOM. The latest estimate of costs is £1.663 million. It includes works to deal with historic asbestos, but Council should know that the full extent and costs of removing the asbestos can only be established once works commence, which is due to take place shortly. There is contingency in the estimated cost before Council tonight, but financial risk remains. There are a number of budget changes proposed to the capital programme, including Section 106 contributions of £53,000 to support the extension of St Luke's Hall in Overton, and £23,000 from the Office for Zero Emissions to complete the installation of electric vehicle charging points in Whitchurch and Overton. Since the last update in February, additional capital grants have been notified to us, including £232,000 for disabled facilities. I think this is something that all councillors will welcome, as it helps to meet rising demand from residents during COVID. Risk assessments have been completed in accordance with our risk management process and have identified no residual risks that can't be fully minimised by existing or planned controls or additional procedures. So I'd like to recommend the report and the points that we're seeking approval on to Council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. I understand Councillor Golding will second this recommendation. Would you like to reserve your right to speak later? Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody want to contribute to this debate? We've got Councillor Rafal. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, Madam Mayor, on page 50, item 4.4, buried within the report, is a very good news item referring to the grant funding achieved by the Council, which has resulted in electric vehicle charging points being installed, 4 in Whitchurch and 2 in Overton, and I opened them officially last week. And I know that residents in both areas will be delighted with them being installed. And I can say it's my intention that we seek further grant funding, if possible, to roll out further electric vehicle charging points in council-owned car parks across the borough. I can also tell you, Madam Mayor, that this is part of a wider programme in my portfolio of trying to seek electric vehicle charging points for those residents who have on-street parking. There's been a bit of a blockage in it in the past, but we need to progress that, and I shall be bringing before the very active and able Climate Change Member Advisory Panel, which met last night and was very busy on a different matter. I shall be bringing a paper to them in due course for their discussion, as well as discussing it with some of our partners who are interested in this area. And I hope members support the paper.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Fell. I understand Councillor Woolridge would like to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to support this capital programme outlined in the report. It's clearly desirable to get the slip projects back on track, given the 12.4% slippage in the last financial year. As a Northern councillor, I'm really pleased to see the improvements to open space highlighted in, scheduled in the programme for 3 of Northern's open spaces. I do support the phased approach that's outlined in the report and look forward to seeing the Northern community fully consulted as the detailed plans emerge. Regarding Disabled Facility Grant, I'm delighted and reassured to see the increase in the Disabled Facilities Grant. It's so important to keep our more vulnerable and elderly residents safe and independent, so it's good to see. However, I do note on page 66 of the report in Appendix 2 that demand has increased and there remains a high level of referrals and a waiting list. I suspect that this demand will only increase further due to the ever-increasing wait for treatment and operations in the NHS. This, to me, begs the question, do we have enough staff resources at Basingstoke and Deane to deal with this increased demand? It's all very well having extra budget. We also need staff resources to process the applications and deal with the partner agencies' queries and liaison with them. Indeed, staff resources and stretched staff is a concern, the general concern I have about this report. With our new leaner staff structure, do we have enough staff to juggle the overseeing of these projects that have slipped, whilst at the same time plan for future projects to ensure that there's no slippage going forward? Another concern, which is highlighted in the report, is the risks associated with inflationary pressures, potential shortage of materials and contractors. I'm aware from my own line of work this isn't a potential risk, it's a real risk which has happened during COVID and continues to happen. It's affecting all trades. I was in a meeting this morning where they were discussing, the shortage of concrete, shortage of lorry drivers, and I'm aware of a long wait for specialist contractors. So with this in mind, I suggest we need to have very tight control of these projects and very detailed action plans to ensure that they stay on track and they're delivered in a timely way and within budget. I look forward to the portfolio holders' comments on the points I've raised. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wooldridge. Can we have Councillor Harvey, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I welcome the paper and welcome the Cabinet Member for Climate Change's comments re green infrastructure and car parking, particularly electric charging points. And I think it's welcome that we have public charging points. But the interesting conundrum, I think, coming forward is what do we do on those new estates that are being built where we want to encourage developers to put them in the first place? And where does the infrastructure go so that it's accessible? How do we encourage, in the context of the monies we can invest and the working with partnerships with our colleagues in housing associations on estates and with the county council as well? It was a shame, wasn't it, that the county council decided to put the lampposts at the back of pavements. Yes, a few years ago when they renewed them across the borough. There wasn't the foresight then to put those lampposts at the front of the pavement, so they may be usable in the context of the network that other authorities are enjoying and rolling out in their districts. So I think there's an awful lot that can be done here. There's a really good agenda, and I think if the Cabinet Member is encouraging our partners to work with us in that way, that's good. But there's an awful lot of demand out there beginning to increase and desire for having car parking, electric car parking charging, and how that can be rolled out in partnership so that we achieve it on our estates, achieve it on our new builds is really important, as well as simply having the public charging points that we do have in the town that are positive and are good and a big step forward. No one's going to argue with that. But there's a whole agenda here that I really welcome talking with the Cabinet Member and taking forward as an authority, particularly with our partners such as our housing associations. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Are there any other members who wish to contribute? Councillor Golding, would you like to add anything to the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This capital programme, although I know many people do feel it's a bit of a dry report, I always feel sad for the officers who've written it when people say that though, it contains so many good things about how we are investing in our communities. It's the difference, it's this investment that we can do without borrowing that makes our local communities a truly great place to live, and therefore I will be giving this report my full support this evening. I did just want to briefly mention DFGs. Hasn't been in my portfolio for a few years now, but as an occupational therapist myself, I always take great interest in them. When I had it in my portfolio, the waiting list was almost always with the occupational therapists themselves, who are employed by Hampshire County Council, and therefore the delays were very rarely in the borough team, but I have tasked the portfolio holder to find that out as well. But I agree with you, it's a real difficulty in terms of getting the services, but I do have confidence that our teams are working very hard to make sure they're getting reliable people who can do that work. So in summary, Madam Mayor, I will fully support this paper. I think it's really important that we are doing the things to make our borough a lovely place to live, but also making that more people can live at home for longer and more independently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Golding. Councillor Isaac, would you like to add any more words?
Yes, of course, yes. I'd like to respond to Councillor Wooldridge. So I'm firstly pleased that Councillor Wooldridge, representing her ward, is positive about the work that's being done and planned for the open spaces in Lorden. On disabled grants, I think the demand over the years has been huge, and it's always difficult to meet the demand. So that's why it's so terrific that we've got this additional £230,000 odd. On the staffing question that you raised, Councillor Wooldridge, I think the officers in the Borough Council have risen magnificently to the significant challenges that COVID has brought, and I, and along with the rest of the cabinet and senior officers, will of course take monitor how our staff are dealing with the issues, and if any action is required to help them further, then of course we'll do so. On inflation, you make a good point, and it's something that, new as I am to this portfolio, Cabinet Member for Finance, that I have discussed the risks of inflation that are very apparent in all the newspapers and financial press that you read at the moment. So I've discussed this with the Executive Director for Corporate Services, and it's something that we do need to be aware of and take whatever measures we can to minimise the impact of it. But there will be an impact of it, there's no doubt about that. I think that my observation is in terms of our contracts and services that we procure, we have very tight controls over these. We have very good governance, but it's something that we have to keep a very watchful eye on at all times. But thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. Now, are you all agreed? Do you want to show hands, or do you want to say agreed? Is everyone agreed? Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. So we now move on to agenda item 10, which is the Revenue Outturn Report and COVID-19 Financial Impact Update 2020-21. As per the agenda on page 74, we are seeking Council's approval of Para 7. I understand Councillor John Isaac will propose this request for approval. Councillor Isaac, you have 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, as you say, this is the Revenue Outturn Report for 2020-21. This report covers the outcome of our revenue budget. It was the most uncertain, unpredictable and challenging year for the Council's finances for many years because of the pandemic emergency. That we ended up the financial year with a favourable variance of 2.55 million proves the strength of this Council's finances and our ability to withstand major shocks, as well as our good financial management and robust financial processes. The fluctuations that have had to be dealt with over the financial year included unbudgeted increased expenditure of £1.37 million, reduced income of £4.69 million, including £620,000 lower than expected parking income, and £8.05 million of additional costs, which amounts to some 15% of our annual net revenue, to put it into perspective. By maintaining financial discipline and reacting early to the threats posed by COVID-19 with measures to hold back on expenditure, we have weathered the storm so far. Other councils across the land have not done so well. 10 have been forced to seek emergency loans from government totalling £300 million, while Slough Borough Council has gone bust. We could not know at the start of the financial year the level of government assistance we might receive. As it has turned out, most of the pandemic impacts financially have been offset by government grants, totalling £11.56 million. However, the overall effect on us of COVID in this financial year is a cost pressure of £1.18 million. Some planned spend was inevitably delayed by the pandemic, and is covered in the report as recommended carry-forwards of £460,000 in 21-22 and a carry-forward of £890,000 of COVID-19 grant income from government to continue to support our communities. We're also planning to top up the MTFS risk reserve with £1.2 million. The effects of COVID-19 are likely to continue to impact on our finances. I'm pleased to be able to report to Council that we propose using some of the revenue surplus to allocate £1 million each to 2 key Council priorities: the climate change and the economic recovery fund reserves. Grants of £35.75 million were received from government, with our officers efficiently passporting these on to local businesses. No doubt, a lifeline to many of them. Our finance team has responded magnificently to this new and increased workload in assessing applications and getting money to businesses quickly. As at March 2021, there is a balance of 3.44 million intended to be paid out during the current financial year. The effects of the pandemic on our finances will continue to be closely monitored and interventions taken as required. To end, I'd like to thank my predecessor, Councillor Golding, and Sue Curden, our Executive Director of Corporate Services, and her team for the expert way that they've helped this council navigate so far through the pandemic. I know it has been a very pressurised, unrelenting time, but this report, and most importantly, the extent to which we've been able to help our residents and businesses with financial assistance during this very difficult time, I think reflect highly on their commitment and professionalism. I recommend the report to Council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isett. I believe Councillor Golding is going to second this recommendation. Would you like to reserve the right? Okay. Are there any members that would like to contribute to this debate? Councillor Fell.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank the Cabinet Member for boosting the climate change reserve. It's a very important reserve, and members should be, Madam Mayor, under no illusions that once we've got out of the pandemic, our finances are going to have to be deployed significantly in order to bring about the necessary changes, both not only within the borough's own infrastructure, but also to bring our residents into a position to become carbon neutral by 2030. I'd also, Madam Mayor, while I have the opportunity, like to thank Councillor Harvey for his comments. He will know through his colleagues who attended the members' advisory panel that active consideration is being given not only to the things that he is suggesting, but to other matters beside. And I look forward to the contribution from all members in making sure that we can achieve the objectives this council has set out. We're moving from the theory phase to the practical phase, and that's where it's tough, and that's when the chequebook has to come out, and tough decisions have to be made in the next budget about whether we're going to deal with these big issues or we're going to worry about much smaller issues in our borough as we normally would do.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Fell. I believe Councillor Watts would like to contribute to this discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to start by also paying tribute to Mr. Mike Bowler. He was a resident of South Ham Ward for many years, and he'd done some great work for charities over the years. He moved out of South Ham, and I bumped into him actually campaigning a few years ago in Buckskin. His health wasn't good then, but I'm shocked to hear of his passing, and he was a great champion of Basingstoke and Dean charities. The outturn budgets, the portfolio holder crows tonight, and he crows in the paper about that this council was taking fiscal responsibility and took early action to reduce the expenditure. So I've got to stick my glasses on. Take my mask off, it steams up, sorry. Surely this council should be apologising for such poor forecasts. In the paper, it states that 1.3 million from money down, 1.1 million from planning income, 750,000 business rates. Such poor forecasts have knock-on effects for future budgets, as we all know. And in February this year, we had a full council which pushed through more cuts to services and increases. Surely the council should be apologising for inflicting more costs and cuts on the residents of Basingstoke and Dean. So they're scrapping the shuttle bus, which 60,000 people used in 2019, cutting the grants to this establishment and the Anvil Arts. They're increasing charges across the board. They also increased the council tax by 5%. As I've already said, surely this council should be apologising to the residents of Basingstoke and Dean for such poor forecasts, unnecessary cuts, and increased bills for this financial year. Also, don't believe this council should be sticking all its variances into the reserves. I welcome the money for the economic recovery and the climate change, but my calculation, that still leaves £500,000, and I think we should be reversing some of those cuts, like to grass cuts. the reduction in grass cuts, where it's been reduced from 12 to 8. I mean, if you walked around the town now, it is getting overgrown. Many paths are inaccessible, bushes are all over the place, and it needs some urgent action. I mean, we're also proposing car parking charges at Eastdrop. Surely some of this budget, could be used to stop that going forward as well, which residents are not very happy with at all. That was in the budget actually in February, but you needed to look deep in the budget books, which we didn't have at the council meeting at the time. So this is not a levelling up agenda, it's a levelling down agenda. We're actually paying more for less, the residents of Basingstoke and Dean, and this Tory council should apologise for this mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Is there anybody else who would like to contribute? I can't see any hands. So, Councillor Golding, would you like to not sum up, but to have your 5 minutes? Can you put the time on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to address Councillor Watts's comments because I'm not sure how he really thinks we could have forecasted it for the year we've just had. The finance team worked incredibly hard over the past year, not just with forecasts and moving, like with a constant moving feast. We couldn't predict what central government would throw our way. And that was a lot of things, actually. It wasn't just money for us, but it was constant positive grants, which were great, but were a real challenge for the finance team to roll out so speedily. I've always constantly been so proud that our team were able to roll them out so quickly. They got the guidance from government, they wanted to write a policy. I'd be whizzed an email at about 6 o'clock on a Friday night so it could go live the following Monday. Our teams have worked incredibly hard, and I think Councillor Watts has done them a disservice actually this evening. However, if he does think that it would have been possible to have forecast throughout COVID our finances, perhaps he could lend Councillor Isaac his crystal ball for the coming year. I appreciate his frustration with the cuts. However, I think we do need to be grown up about this and differentiate that we have to find ongoing savings in our revenue budget. It's not a one-year fix. These are savings that are difficult to make. They are difficult decisions, but they must save us costs year on year on year. And just putting them back in this year won't help anyone. And actually, I think it's also disingenuous because I think the way we're proposing to use the money is the right thing. It wasn't long ago that we unanimously supported the climate change agenda, that we set ourselves really challenging targets. And it's right that we now put our money where our mouth is. We can't just ignore it. We've got to take action. I'm delighted we now have Councillor Rafal, who has one job in this council, which is to spend that money and to make sure that we see real change in this borough. And I, for one, am looking forward to seeing that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Golding. Councillor Isaac, would you like to sum up?
Yes, I can just respond to Councillor Watts. I think what Councillor Golding said has sort of encapsulated my views. Councillor Watts, it seems to me that we have been through and we are going through the biggest emergency since World War II. And I think that the measures we took at the beginning of the financial year just gone were absolutely the right things to do. We've maintained key services. We haven't suffered the ignominy of some of other councils where they've lost control. I think that our residents respect the approach we take and support the fiscally responsible approach that this administration takes. And I suppose that I'm encouraged in that view by the results of the May elections. And I will leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. Are we agreed, or are we going to have to vote or roll call? Agreed? Okay, thank you very much, members. Agreed. Right, moving on, we move to agenda item number 11, which is the Treasury Management Annual Report 2020-2021. This is a report, and if we look at page 111, we are seeking Council to note the Treasury Management Annual Report. As it's a report of the Executive Director, I shall propose this, and my Deputy Mayor is going to second it. Seconded?
Seconded.
Perfect, okay. Thank you. I understand Councillor John Isaac will now speak to this paper. You have 5 minutes.
Well, I'm not sure I will, Madam Mayor, because it's not really my report. In the interests of this evening, this report on our Treasury management records that the investment income we achieved was 2.08 million versus a budget of 2.56 million. The original budget, let's remember, was set before COVID. Our investment balances at the 31st of March 2021 were £126.5 million. What I think it's important to note from the report is that 63% of our portfolio is invested in long-term externally managed pooled funds, and it's only 37%, or still a substantial sum of £46.5 million that's held in cash for liquidity purposes. Two factors have affected our investments in the year. Firstly, interest rates, and secondly, credit risk. The base rate has, during this time, been at an all-time low of 0.10%. In the budget, we forecast a 0.75% return on cash. What we actually obtained was 0.03% because of short-term rates following the emergency falling negative at some points. However, it's important to maintain liquidity in case cash is needed during an emergency such as COVID. On credit risk, this improved from the difficult days at the start of the COVID emergency. By the financial year end, external holdings had recovered their capital value and showed a valuation of 1% above the purchase price. Total returns, i.e. income distribution and capital value, were very positive. Total returns over the financial year were 9.92%. Internally managed investments have been affected by the fact that some gilts have matured and interest returns have been depressed during the pandemic. The indications are that we need to reduce the high level of liquidity in order to obtain better returns than cash is currently offering. And that concludes my summary of the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. So we're being asked to note the Treasury report. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item number 12 is the amendment to and development of the Constitution on pages 125 to 162. It is a report of the Monitoring Officer. And as per the agenda on page 125, we are seeking Council to adopt and or note the amendments detailed in paragraphs 1 to 5. I shall propose this adoption, and I seek Deputy Mayor seconded. Excellent. And now I understand that Fiona Thompson, our Head of Legal, will now speak to this recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to raise your attention to, there's a couple of errors, I'm afraid, in the report, which one of which is in the update paper. In relation to recommendation 2 and the amendments, the technical amendments proposed to the contract standing orders, we missed one of the names of the regulations in paragraph 19.1 on page 149. At the moment it says the EU procurement regulations, and it should of course say the public contract regulations. Also in relation to recommendation 5, the last sentence should read paragraph 3.8 of the report, 3.7 of the report rather than 3.8. In relation to recommendation 4, I just wanted to bring to your attention that this matter was considered by the Standards Committee on Monday of this week, and they have recommended the amendment be approved by Council this evening. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Fiona. So, shall we go straight to a vote, or does anybody wish to talk about this agenda item? Do you all want to vote? Agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. We are agreed on that then. So moving on to agenda item number 13, which is the interim arrangements for the role of returning officer and electoral registration officer. As per the agenda on page 163, we are seeking council to approve the interim appointment of Sue Curden as returning officer and electoral registration officer for the period of Rebecca Emmett's maternity leave. I understand that the leader will now propose and speak to this recommendation. Leader, you have 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, brevity on this one, I'm afraid. I'm delighted that during a period of Rebecca Emmett's maternity leave that we've had the opportunity to give this responsibility across to Sue Curden, who did an excellent job in supporting Rebecca Emmett during the election that we've just had in May, and I will be delighted that there are no by-elections in the interim period, and therefore she will have her opportunity to serve us as our returning officer at the next May election. So I look forward to that, and I ask for your support in that. Thank you.
Brilliant. We like brevity when brevity is possible. Thank you. I understand Councillor Simon Bound will second this? Seconded. Do you wish to contribute to it? No. Is everybody agreed? Excellent. Thank you very much. We agree that recommendation. Congratulations to Sue. Number 14, Ombudsman Decision 20003006. This is a report of the Monitoring Officer, and as per the agenda on page 167, we are seeking Council to note 1, the Ombudsman's decision on the complaint of Mr. X that the Council was at fault and that the fault caused injustice. And 2, that the remedial action taken to address the injustice as set out in this report in para 4.2, page 168. I understand that Councillor Mark Raffel, as Cabinet Member for the Natural Environment and Climate Improvement, will propose and speak to this recommendation. Councillor Raffel, you have 5 minutes. Sorry, I was...
That's fine, I'll do whatever I'm told. Thank you.
I'm sorry, your group told me that you...
Well, I don't know where they got that from, but I've done it.
Okay,
yes.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. I understand that the leader has agreed to second it. Sorry. Okay.
And, I accept the decision of the Ombudsman, who has taken this very much to heart, and we should note it. Thank you.
No. And in fact, I'm not laughing about the matter at hand, because of course it's extremely serious, but the confusion. So I apologise to anyone who could take umbrage at my laughing. Right. Does everybody in the theatre agree? Thank you very much. Number 15, Standards Committee Annual Report. This is another report of the Monitoring Officer, and as per the agenda on page 177, we are seeking Council to receive and note the Standards Committee Annual Report. I understand the leader will propose and speak to this recommendation. Leader, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. This Standards Report is fairly clear in its direction. It is important that we are challenged to make sure that we uphold the standards and integrity that was first noted early on in this meeting. I don't want to say particularly anything much to this annual report, other than it should be noted. But I do want to express my continued thanks to the Standards Committee, and especially to the Chair, who has been the Chair for a number of years. That is Chris Evans, who has now left that position as Chair of the Standards Committee. His commitment both to this borough as a councillor and to the standards that we all wish to uphold has been exemplary. I wish him well in whatever retirement he has. He's a busy man. I'm sure he will find many other things to do. But we are blessed with so many people who give up their time to ensure that the standards of integrity and good governance are beholden upon us all, and that we can, in the acting for our public, make sure that we are doing it to the highest standards. So I welcome this report, but praise Mr. Evans for his work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. I understand the Deputy Leader will now second this recommendation. Do you wish to contribute to the debate? No. Okay, thank you very much. I also understand that Councillor Dan Putty might like to speak to this recommendation. Councillor Putty, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I also really thank everybody for accepting the report that we have got. And I'd like to pay tribute to Christopher Beresford Evans, who was our chairman for a long time on Standard Board Committee. Chris served as a borough mayor in 1990 and 1991. He was our chain gang, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Putty.
That's okay. Yeah. He had been a trustee of Basingstoke and District Sports Trust Limited since 1978. He was a keen sportsman. Chris provided a massive contribution to the sports trust, particularly as chairman, where he became a trustee in 1995. He initiated the refurbishment of the Basingstoke Sports Centre, and he also initiated the Sports Trust scholarship scheme and the highly successful cardiac rehabilitation group at the Sports Centre. His contribution and commitments to the borough has been second to none. And also, he earned a presentation from Mark Jones for the Sports Award. His dedication and charity work for and on behalf of the borough has been well known. During his 43 years service, I have been honored to have followed him at the Basingstoke Sports Trust, and I travel part of the way, and also I'd been honored to work with him on Standard Board as his vice chairman. His outstanding service to the borough is to be recognized. I hope, Madam Mayor, that we can honor him in some way when the COVID emergency will be over, and hopefully that the council, the borough council, is going to honor him for his service and his contribution to the borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Putty. And I very much hope I get a chance to meet him once I have a parlour and we can maybe invite him. Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to contribute to this item? No? Is everybody agreed? Agreed? Thank you very much. Right. We move on to agenda item 16. This motion has, I understand, been withdrawn by both the proposer and the seconder. Is everybody happy to accept that? Agreed? Excellent, thank you. So we move on to our only motion tonight, and it's regarding fly tipping. Councillor Donohoe is to propose this. He has a maximum of 5 minutes. This is for the benefits of the new councillors, of which we have many. And the seconder has 5 minutes, and then the rest of the members have a total of 20. So, Councillor Donohoe, would you like to propose it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, every councillor in this chamber became a councillor because they cared about their community and about the environment that that community inhabits. The scourge of fly tipping is something that affects every ward in Basingstoke, both rural and urban. Listening to Councillor Robinson speak knowledgeably about chalk streams earlier this week, and working with Councillor Ganesh to drag abandoned shopping trolleys out of Popley Ponds just a few weeks ago, convinces me that this is something on which we can come together regardless of party. And I hope, therefore, that it will secure the unanimous support of every environmentally concerned member of this council. Madam Mayor, this motion is necessary, affordable and achievable. It is necessary because it is a matter of deep concern to our residents and to the quality of their lives. It is necessary because, as we have found in our efforts in Popley, we have fragmented land ownership and fragmented responsibilities, and we need a coordinating strategy to combat that. It is necessary because this is a criminal activity, and we must be tough on crime, and dare I say, on the causes of crime. It is affordable because we are looking for planning, not pounds. Because with proper financial awareness of the scale of the problem, we can recoup investments in enforcement easily. It is affordable because the supporting technology is cheap and easily deployed. It is affordable because we know that other councils, like Wokingham, have already implemented a comprehensive strategy on tackling fly tipping. It's achievable. There were 1 million incidents of fly tipping in England alone last year. But it's achievable here because in Basingstoke, while the volumes of incidents are growing, they are not yet irreversible. It's achievable because we have the technology and, as I hope we will demonstrate tonight, the will to fix it. It's achievable because, as has been demonstrated in many major cities, zero tolerance works. A broken window attracts more broken windows, and fly tipping attracts fly tipping. A fast response to incidents is key to solving this problem. With the right strategy, a fast response is not beyond us. Wokingham Borough Council has already implemented a comprehensive strategy on fly tipping, which focuses on prevention, communication, reporting, responding, and partnerships. A simple example from this strategy is the use of large orange stickers placed at a site once the council has identified it for action, reassuring residents and communicating to the community. Large orange stickers are not expensive. The partnerships are crucial. Partnerships with housing associations, local retailers, environmental groups, private landowners and county. Making a success of those partnerships will require a clear, coordinated strategy. Madam Mayor, I hope and trust that the portfolio holder will rise in support of this motion. As drafted, it does not focus in great detail on solutions. We know that CCTV cameras are not a silver bullet. They are just a part of the solution, just a part of the strategy. It is the strategy and its development that is key. And if passed, I fully expect and hope that all members will submit ideas and solutions to the portfolio holder. Unleash a wave of creativity, experience and determination that will show this council at its best. Show that this council cares about its environment. Show that this council is capable of delivering for its residents. This problem of fly tipping is a scar on my ward of Popley, and as in many matters, Popley deserves better. Where fly tipping is concerned, so does every ward in Basingstoke. Madam Mayor, I commend this motion to the Chamber.
Thank you very much. And I believe that was your maiden speech, Councillor Donohoe. Thank you. Now, Councillor Tustin, would you like to second this now, or do you wish to wait? Okay, thank you very much. So I've got two councillors who've indicated that they wish to talk. Is everybody else interested in? Okay, right. If we could have Councillor Raffel first, please. 5. No, I haven't. He's done it as well. Okay, thank you. We put the 5 minutes on, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks. Sorry.
Madam Mayor, can I just say that fly tipping is something that we should look carefully at, but we need to look at it looking forwards at CEP and perhaps not looking backwards at scrutiny. Members will recall, and you, Madam Mayor, will recall in particular, the huge volume of residual medical waste, probably the largest fly tipping incident in the whole of the borough, which landed up in our ward a year or two back, and how efficiently our staff managed to deal with it very, very quickly. And in fact, it was down to their hard work and cooperation with the Environment Agency that we understand that someone was eventually prosecuted for it and for all their other instances across the south of England. So for that reason, I think it's right that we look at fly tipping, but we should always remember that it is very hard to prosecute people who are determined to dump waste and generally not be caught. The ones who are caught are the stupid ones who generally leave items of personal material within the waste. And the idea of just sticking cameras around every turning in rural environments is just not going to happen. And unfortunately, the problem is going to be something that we have to live with. And I have to say, in the rural environments, it never ends. But I wouldn't want it to be thought that our staff are only dealing with huge amounts of fly tipping, because they're not. They're actually doing some other things that really benefit our borough. And I thought I would just share with members, Madam Mayor, on the same topic, because it's the same staff who deal with both, a compliment received by the borough at 1641 today. And it says this: I work in Basingstoke and approach my workplace along Churchill Way to Eastrock Roundabout. For the last few months, I've enjoyed the beautiful planting along both sides of the road, first with spring crocuses and daffodils, and then the meadow flowers, alliums and irises. Each day I thought I must congratulate the council on such a display, and have finally got around to putting pen to paper. I'm sure not many people even notice what's at the side of the road, but to me it brightened my day. Thank you. If only other councils followed your example. So I thought I'd share that with you, Madam Mayor, because I'm sure all members want to congratulate our hard-working staff. Firstly, getting rid of bad things in our borough, but also through the council's gateway strategy, which is something we put together quite recently, in brightening up our borough and making it a better place to live.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Raffel. Councillor Harvey, would you like to contribute? You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
I rise to speak in support of the motion and the sentiment behind it, and recognise the issue that we face in Norden, and it's not just Norden, it's been mentioned, many other wards across our borough face the same issue. I mean, if you think about the context of land ownership and what some of us face in the urban area, it is a headache. And I've got to say, I want to thank our officers, because dealing with that and having our officer team being able to navigate through that to find either private landowners, if it's garage areas, and in particular some of those private land garage areas that were part of the old LSP transfer when the old MOD land was moved across to the borough, or moved across to housing associations, or moved across to nobody because finding the ownership of them is incredibly difficult, and we rely on our staff to help us through that, to deal with the fly tip we often see in those private garage areas, and they are excellent, but it takes time. And in some cases, we've faced cases where there's been fly tipping left for nearly 18 months because nobody was able to be identified as to who owned it, and it took a real battle and a risk, actually, on this borough's behalf, really, to deal with it, but nonetheless our officers did. But it took a battle to get there, to get it resolved in the first place. So there are issues here that we can talk about and discuss, and the different land ownerships are there. It's particularly difficult when you're chasing our housing associations, when you're chasing up their ability to deal with it, particularly, again, when they rely and fall back on our borough staff to be able to help them. And again, I thank our staff for that, because they often have to step in, and it's welcome. I think there are issues around the lengthy process that residents face and the frustrations they face when day in, day out, they walk out of their homes or walk into their garage areas or go onto their open spaces and they see the fly tip there day in, day out, not being moved because there is a process to follow. So I would like to explore, if possible, whether there are ways to speed things up. I don't know, but it would be good if there were, because the reassurance that would give residents, the ability that would give our officers perhaps to have more ammunition to deal with it would be superb. I think there is a perennial problem to this, and it is perhaps sad to see, and I saw it myself with a recent exercise of a community litter pick with Scouts, when right next to one of our recycling centres there's a ton of fly tip. And you're thinking, here you're trying to show the right example to all these young people about looking after litter, dealing with community litter pick and doing the right thing. And here is an absolute commercial dump being done by somebody who must have driven their van in and dumped the stuff there. Somebody must have chosen to do that and blight our community, blight our open space with their fly tip, which was utterly abhorrent to see. And you see these young people absolutely reacting to it, nonetheless understanding what is right and wrong in that matter. So I think there's an awful lot we can explore here. I rise to support the motion, and I think it's a very worthwhile thing to investigate. But I do know it's a perennial problem, and it's going to take an awful lot to sort it out. And if the one message that this council can give out is that we do not support and would absolutely fight in every tooth and every ability that we have to fight fly tipping, it would be very, very good, so that we can deal with the commercial fly tippers, as much as those perhaps who haven't been able to access County Council's waste recycling centre as easily as they might have done, or those people that necessarily don't easily afford to get rid of their waste because of other things that are going on in their lives. There are circumstances involved in this as well, and maybe sometimes we don't always help those circumstances with the choices we make with our budgets, our processes, and the way we run things. So there's maybe layers to this that we might want to investigate, but I nonetheless support the motion and its intent.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Ganesh, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Or just, if you wait for the mic, that would be lovely. Thank you, Councillor Ganesh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening to all my fellow members. Thanks for this great opportunity to represent the ward I live in this council chamber. I would like to start by thanking my residents who elected me to represent them, to raise the issues concerned to them the most, similar to fly tipping. I hope I'll be one of those rubbish councillors who will be talking a lot around fly tipping and bin collection regularly in this chamber. I would like to thank my fellow neighbouring councillor Donahue for bringing this motion for debate. I agree that fly tipping is serious crime caused widespread not only for the residents and businesses, but most importantly on the environment. Litter and fly tipping can be a threat to nature and wildlife and should be treated with zero tolerance. As someone who has been part of the few local conservation groups, like Councillor Donahue mentioned, I remember the first day out a few years ago cleaning some of the fly tipping around Marnell Ponds and our range for collection by the council. Since then, I have seen great work done by the council staff engaging with local resident groups and conservation groups on tackling this issue. I also had a number of residents contacting me from the urban part of the ward, informing me around the challenges that we have around land ownership, which makes the job difficult for the council to deal with this. But we have had instances, we've reported fly tipping at sort of 11 a.m. in the morning, and it was cleared by 3 p.m. And even on Saturdays, I've had instances. These were picked up by the team. So I would like to use this opportunity to thank all the council staff, the operatives, and senior management who are supporting to make this happen. And we also have a good record in prosecuting perpetrators and issuing fines for this criminal activity. And vehicle believed to be one of the source of this crime around our ward was seized recently by police. And there was one conviction for a resident who flighted some household waste at Wharton St Lawrence, and he was ordered to pay £784 and asked to do 80 hours of unpaid work by the courts. So there is progress and there is a lot of work going on, like some of my councillor colleagues mentioned. As much as I like to agree on some of the arguments made by my councillor colleagues, I find it difficult to support what this motion for what is seeking from this council meeting, because there are some great work done, and these modern crimes need a modern solution. What we need is more collaborative working with our partners like Hampshire County Council in improving the recycling facilities and making it more accessible for residents, and more joint working with PCSOs, CSPOs and police forces on enforcement and prosecuting the offenders. So joint working is the key, and I can see the progress in the borough, which is great. So I would like to, so what I thought was to ask, if I may ask the cabinet member responsible to bring this issue for discussion at CEP, and probably, if possible, later this month. And I do not see the necessity to support this motion that could undermine all the work, great work done by the officers, cabinet members and councillor colleagues. Unfortunately, this motion will not solve the fly tipping issue, so I'm afraid I cannot support this motion as it is, but I'm happy to work with my neighbouring ward colleagues who sit in CEP and to resolve this issue in a constructive manner. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ganesh. And that was another maiden speech. Thank you very much. Now, Councillor Tony Jones, please. I thought you wanted to contribute. We need a... If you wait a second, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to speak on the fact that this motion, to my mind, does not knock our council officers. What they actually do is good, but it isn't working because we haven't got round the problem how to resolve it. And we should be looking at it as a whole council, whether you support where it goes, it doesn't really matter, but we need to sit down as councillors to find out how to resolve it and be strong instead of trying to score points on this and points on that. It does sicken me in as much as every ward in this town or in this borough has problems, and we do get response from our officers, but it's all right responding, but we want to stop it at source, and there's a lot of problems out there, so I will be supporting this, and I hope everybody else will, because it's a good motion. It's not political. It's across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Councillor Eachus.
Madam Mayor, we all know that fly tipping continues to be a significant matter to address. The Council Street Cleansing Team clears significant amounts of fly tip waste year on year. Our street cleansing team aims to remove any fly tip waste on land that we are responsible for within 24 hours. This is rarely exceeded. This helps to reduce the impact on the community and shows our commitment to this issue. Their work must not go unnoticed, and we thank them for all that they do in clearing this waste. It is often perceived and claimed that fly tipping is increasing. There have been periods when incidents have gone up, but by the same token, there are periods when it has gone down. The weight of waste collected as fly tipped and deposited by crews has not fluctuated significantly for a number of years. These figures suggest that the Council's zero-tolerance approach to fly tipping is having a positive impact. Fly tipping is undeniably harmful on many levels. This is why the issue is given such prominence by the Council and a zero-tolerance approach is taken to enforcement. We know there has been a particular problem at some bring sites this year, and there has been work ongoing in this regard. A report is being brought to CEP about that next week, and that's what my colleague Councillor Ganesh was talking about. So this will discuss a lot about fly tipping, and that's next week. This will deal with the fact communications are ongoing to educate residents that dumping items at these sites is considered to be fly tipping and will result in prosecution where possible. The Council is also committed to providing redeployable overt CCTV cameras for use at those bring sites, and as part of the budget, the Council earmarked additional resources for this purpose. This motion makes reference to increased charges in bulky waste, but charges for this service in Basingstoke and Dean are much lower than many other authorities. There is no evidence of a link between the charges or the availability of bulky waste collections and the incidence of fly tipping. We cannot financially assess the impact of charges or availability at HWRC sites in the context of its relationship with fly tipping. There are too many variables and that cannot be quantified. Much is about the behaviour change and educating residents. Our comms team work extremely hard on campaigns. Social media posts relating to fly tipping have been published on the Council's social media channels, containing a range of information from prosecution results to fly tipping at the bring sites, as well as how to dispose of waste responsibly. This campaign has been supported by regular articles in e-newsletters and Basingstoke and Dean Today. The cost for clearing waste is not captured by the Council. Clearance of fly tip waste is unfortunately part of the street cleansing crews' everyday work. Crews work in areas for purposes of efficiency rather than task, so as such, time spent clearing fly tip and waste cannot reliably be split out from other things they do. Cost recovery in respect of convicted individuals is undertaken by the courts, and on a monthly basis the Council receives payments from the courts. If they don't pay, the courts will enforce these for us. Our plan has always been centred on maximising the number of prosecutions where evidence is sufficient to do so. The Council's response to fly tipping has not been insufficient, as our enforcement activity shows. We have a brilliant, hard-working enforcement team. Fly tipping is a national problem felt at local level. The experience of our borough is no different to what goes on all over the country. Our response to fly tipping and our success with prosecution in recent years does separate us from many other authorities, and we continue to strive for lasting changes in behaviour. In the last year, we have secured 13 convictions, and this is the second highest rate in Hampshire. Fly tipping continues to be a blight on our community, which is why we have taken such a tough stance against it, and we will continue to do so. As an administration, we absolutely agree that tackling fly tipping is a top priority for residents, and it is absolutely a priority for this council. Additional resources being put into this area to further bolster our response. I therefore cannot support the asks in these motions, but I do agree that given the issues that have raised, that this is something that should come to a committee and that we should bring it to CEP early next year. But we do have a form of fly tipping at Bringbanks coming to committee next week, and I welcome the debate that will happen in that regard as well.
Thank you very much, portfolio holder. I believe Councillor Laura James would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recently met with the director with responsibility for waste and also the senior staff, and we worked on the issue of communication with residents in relation to fly tipping. We looked at the issue of land ownership and who had responsibility for patches of land and how we would communicate that to residents. And if someone rang into the council and through the contact centre, what would be said, and if it was a responsibility of this borough, then what would happen to that communication. We then looked at what if it wasn't our responsibility and it was a housing association or it was a land ownership. And we spent, I guess, about 2 hours looking at this and a procedure. And I understand that that piece of work was going to go away and come back to all members. And it was a really positive piece of work in relation to signposting and responsibilities. I've never seen sight of that since then. And the staff, the senior staff in relation to street care, and also the director and I myself put a lot of work into that. And I would welcome as an update on how that's going forward, because I think that it was a very positive piece of work. And it's an opportunity, because I think the one thing that is really important in this whole piece of work is communication, and how we communicate with the community and how they are able to communicate with us. Because one of the issues is if we're confused as residents about land ownership when we ring in about a piece of fly tipping, how does the community feel, residents that ring in, not knowing that that piece of grass outside of the house doesn't actually belong to the council, it belongs to a housing association, or actually it's a private piece of land and it's neither. And so there's a massive amount of communication. So I think that there needs to be this piece of work going forward, which was done, and I don't think it's ever been communicated back to members, and I'd welcome an update on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Right, I have 2 speakers down, and I think we've got about 4 minutes between you. So I don't know whether...
4 minutes, but
between them.
7 minutes left.
Oh, there's 7 minutes left?
7 minutes left.
Okay. Okay, there's 7 minutes left. So so if Councillor Freeman would like to speak, that would be great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of this motion. On Winklebury, we're suffering quite badly with fly tipping at our local recycling points. And contrary, unfortunately, to what Councillor Eachus has said, we're waiting for the fly tipping at the Winklebury Centre bring back. It's been waiting for 3 weeks to be cleared. What started out as 2 mattresses and a small fridge is now 2 mattresses, a small fridge, a wardrobe, 2 bedside cabinets, half a dozen pallets, a dozen black sacks full of bedding, clothes. It's attracting rats now. It smells vile. 3 weeks I've been waiting to have that cleared. We have similar problems at the Watson Way Shops recycling point. Currently, we've got a rolled-up mattress, some black sacks, various children's toys, etc. The other week, we had a bathtub and a washing machine left here. It is constant, it is relentless. No sooner have the crews come and cleared it, it's back again. We need some form of deterrent to stop people from dumping waste at our recycling points. This motion seeks to address that in quite a good way, and I will be supporting the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Freeman. Councillor Gavin James, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's rather troubling. We seem to be messing up the Constitution. I know we're going to redo it. We have a policy for dealing with fly tipping. The Council has one. Councillor Eachus, the Cabinet member responsible, has taken us through the highlights of what's been achieved by that policy. The motion asks us to take it to scrutiny, to review it, to see could it be improved, could it be developed. And then the administration say, no, it must go to CEP, either as an afterthought to a paper about removing bring sites, which is going to make the matter worse, or possibly in a year's time. It's absolute nonsense. It needs to go to scrutiny. We have the right as an opposition to review the policies. That's how the council goes for continuous improvement. So anyone who doesn't support this motion is saying, I'm down with continuous improvement. The whole point of scrutiny is to look at the policy, celebrate its success. Can it be better? Who wants to be better? If you want to be better, support the motion. If you want to get worse, don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Right. We have 5 minutes for the seconder. Councillor Tastain. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Fly tipping is a costly problem, and it's not just financially. It's an eyesore. It can damage the environment, harm wildlife, and lead to health risks both directly through vermin and pollution and indirectly by affecting our mental well-being. And I say it does appear to be getting worse, certainly in my ward in Popley. According to DEFRA, with Basingstoke and Dean's figures, which we see, and also nationally, in 2019 to 2020, pre-pandemic, around 2/3 of fly tipping in England was household waste. Basingstoke and Dean was no different, with most fly tipping also being household waste dumped on highways and council land. We do have a process in place to manage fly tipping, but is it working effectively? And I'm not saying this is anything to do with about the hard work against our officers and the teams. In simple terms, we just want to have more clarity on the causes and costs. We need to view current progress and solutions for prevention and management, and we need to ensure swift action to clear it up when it happens and effective prosecution for offenders. This motion is asking for action to better understand the problem in Basingstoke and Dean, its impact on council funds, and clarity on an effective and efficient way forward, that works for all areas with flexible solutions. And we're not talking about CCTV moving about on rural roads. Without having clear data, we can only speculate on the cause of the local problem. In the reports presented tonight, we did read that the bulky waste service is well used. But is this service provision enough for our residents? And booking a collection slot currently means a wait of several weeks. Will an expanded bulky waste collection service, for example, remove some of the fly tipping issues by being more responsive through providing more slots? And is the pricing structure sensitive enough for those on lower incomes to make good use of the service? And then there is the question of response time to fly tipping incidents. I'd love it if we had our fly tipping removed within 24 hours, as I've heard this evening. Do delays in clearance increase the problem too, as fly tipping becomes normalised behaviour? This year, personally, I have reported fly tipping several times and then have watched as more rubbish has been added over a space of weeks while we wait for clearance. So why is that response time slow? I don't believe this has anything to do with the officers and the team's lack of effort. Is it through a lack of clarity over land ownership? Or is it for who is responsible for taking action? Or maybe it's just due to the tidal wave of fly tipping incidents that I'm sure are increasing, and collection teams then struggling to keep up. Another point it could be is because of poor communication channels between Basingstoke and Dean and Serco, who do some of the collections. So what is the impact of all of this on council funds? Are the increased fees gained in bulky waste collection wiped out by the increase in fly tipping costs? And do the delays in clear up and subsequent bigger loads increase the cost of collection? And how cost effective are the prosecutions per incident and as part of fly tipping management overall? And I appreciate it's hard sometimes to work out these costs, but I don't see that's a reason that we shouldn't try. I know I've asked loads of questions and I could ask more, and I appreciate the answers are not always readily available, hence this motion. So I urge the Council to consider an extensive collection and review of data so that we can really understand what is our local issue across the borough. Then let's review this in line with current practices and progress to date, as well as future plans, to diminish and ideally remove this disgusting and unacceptable problem that blights our borough.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tustin. And another maiden speech. So now we have 5 more minutes left for Councillor Donohoe to sum up if you wish.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you kindly pointed out, that was my maiden speech, so I'm pretty new to this game. And as a result, my perceptions are not particularly those of a seasoned politician, but they're those of a resident in many ways. And all I'm hearing is bureaucratic excuses, reasons not to do anything. And I think that's what our residents will hear if we don't pass this motion. We're not as good as Wokingham. That's what they'll hear. We don't want to be as good as Wokingham. They've got a really, really coordinated strategy. And when you vote against this motion tonight, as some of you have said you will, in your quiet evening, go on the website, go on Wokingham's website and look at their strategy. It's not rocket science. It's a result of careful thought. It's a result of councillors, I suspect, from all over Wokingham, talking to the officers, talking to the portfolio holders in the cabinet, and sitting down in a room and coming up with a really good coordinated strategy. It's a Conservative council. I shouldn't like it, but I do. It's a good strategy. It's got loads of good stuff in it. And all I'm suggesting is that there are councillors here who have been here for years, decades perhaps, who really know their wards far better than I know mine yet. I'll get there, but some of you are there already. Some of you know a lot about this stuff, and you could feed that into cabinet and we could come up with a great strategy. I don't particularly care about the fine elements of the motion and what clause says this and what clause says that. If you really objected to a couple of clauses you didn't like the look of, you could have put up an amendment and I'd have accepted it, but you didn't. You just decided to say no. You decided to say no. You don't want to do anything about fly tipping, and that's a real shame.
Thank you, Councillor Donohoe. Yes, you can. So we're going to have to do roll call in here like we did last time we were here because we don't have the buzzers. Fiona, are you happy to and ready to take a recorded vote?
I am. Councillors, we're doing it in seat order to help the microphone bearers. So it will start with Councillor Goderson. So it's either for the motion, against or abstain. Thank you. Councillor Goderson.
For the motion.
Councillor Compton-Burnett.
Against the motion.
Councillor Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Faulkner.
Against.
Councillor Poland.
Against.
Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Tustain.
For.
Councillor Tom.
For.
Councillor Wooldridge.
For.
Councillor Freeman. Councillor Watts. Councillor Howard Sorrell.
For.
Councillor Donohoe.
For.
Councillor Ganesh.
Against.
Councillor Dillow.
Against.
Councillor Bean.
Against.
Councillor Eachus.
Against.
Councillor Tristan Robinson.
Very reluctantly against.
Councillor Rattigan.
Against.
Councillor Bound.
Against.
Councillor Raphael.
Against.
Councillor Golding.
Against.
Councillor Isaac.
Against.
Councillor Nick Robinson.
Abstain.
Councillor Mackay.
For.
Councillor Bowes.
For.
Councillor Konexco.
For.
Councillor Gavin Jones.
Excitedly for.
Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Laura James.
For.
Councillor Tilbury.
For.
Councillor Tomlin.
For.
Councillor Fillimore.
For.
Councillor Court.
Against.
Councillor Katecha.
Against.
Councillor Taylor.
Against.
Councillor Jeans.
Against.
Councillor Leeks.
Against.
Councillor Mahaffey.
Against.
Councillor Mamalanani.
Against.
Councillor Carruthers.
Against.
Councillor Frost.
Reluctantly against.
Councillor Carr.
Against.
Councillor Gaskell.
Against.
Councillor Putty.
Against.
Madam Mayor, not voting.
So I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. And Councillor
Against.
Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the motion is not carried. There were 17 for and 28 against. And that is the result of that motion. Right. We move to questions from members of the council, and we have 3. The first one is from Councillor John Mackay, and it is addressed to the Cabinet Member for Communities, Planning and Infrastructure. And if Councillor Mackay could please ask the question now, that would be brilliant.
Thank you, Mayor. At a time when there's great concern in the community about its future, it's very fitting that tonight's meeting of the Council should be happening right here in the Haymarket Theatre. The theatre is undeniably a valuable cultural community asset, and it's essential to the arts in Basingstoke and to the regeneration of the top of the town. With the current funding and management arrangement having less than a year to run, it's time to ensure all options for the future are considered. Members may be aware that a new Horseshoe Theatre Company has recently been formed with the express purpose of giving this, our much-loved Haymarket Theatre, a new vision and a new lease of life. Can the portfolio holder confirm that due consideration will be given to the Anvil Trust, to the new Horseshoe, and any other party that may be interested in operating the theatre? Could he outline the process to be followed from identifying interested parties through to implementation of new arrangements and the terms of reference? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, there are rules in relation to the answers. So the questioner doesn't have a time, but the person who answers it does. So, Councillor Band, you are bound by 2 minutes for your answer. So if you could please respond to Councillor Mackay, that'd be brilliant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Mackay for his question. I agree that we should consider all options given the importance of this wonderful venue as far as the Haymarket is concerned in the borough's cultural offer and to the vibrancy and prosperity of the town centre. As members will know, we're doing much great work to think about this for the future of the town centre. The first stage is to understand the level of interest from all organisations that have not only have the vision to provide a varied artistic and community programme, but also the resource to invest in programming and the venue itself, and the expertise to operate and maintain the building. We will be interested to hear ideas on how organisations could work in partnership, for example, so that smaller local groups can benefit from the resources and expertise of a larger operator. That exercise, which is about to commence, will inform decisions on the next stage. I anticipate bringing a report to the CEP committee and to the Cabinet in the autumn outlining the process when we've got that feedback from this current stage. And I will keep everybody informed on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader. Councillor Mackay, you have an opportunity to ask another question. You are bound by 1 minute on this question.
Thank you. Firstly, I welcome that all organisations who could reliably bid to run this place will be considered, and particularly to hear reference to smaller groups and users that use the Haymarket, who often need 2 to 3 years to plan what they're doing, and uncertainty in the process is a problem to those groups. Given that the current arrangements expire next March and there's such a tight timescale, I'd like to understand what contingencies, if any, have been made should the process take longer than the period between now and March.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackay. And Councillor Band, you are also bound by 1 minute in your response to his supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I think just to make sure everybody's aware, we have a new chair that was appointed at Anvil Arts this Tuesday, so I welcome Chris Smith's appointment as new chair of trustees, and absolutely all of those questions, because it is a matter of urgency and importance, I will be taking up with him in very short time now he's been appointed.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, we move on to the second question, and that is from Councillor Bowes. And it is addressed to the Cabinet Member for Homes and Housing Regeneration.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in December of 2018, Council unanimously supported the motion exploring new opportunities to provide homes. The motion recognised that an affordable home is vital for people, for families, for key workers and those just starting out in life who cannot even afford to rent privately, let alone buy their own home. It called on us to rise to the challenge of the nation's housing crisis. The motion requested that work be undertaken to explore opportunities to build more social and affordable housing in our borough to tackle our ever-growing waiting list. In particular, it was expected that the work would provide answers to important questions, such as, are there opportunities for the council to build or invest in social and affordable housing? Are there further opportunities to generate income for local services by making such investments? Can we improve the match between housing stock and housing need in our borough? Can the portfolio holder update Council on the work undertaken in the intervening 2.5 years and what has been achieved as a result of the motion? Thank you.
Thank you. And before we move to the response from the portfolio holder, Councillor Bowes, that was her maiden speech. Brilliant. So, Councillor Robinson, you have 2 minutes in which to respond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bowes, for your question and an excellent maiden speech. The new housing and homelessness strategy, which was adopted in July 2020, had unanimous cross-party support and emboldened our previously adopted direction of travel, which affirms delivery of new affordable housing as a key strategic priority. Over the last 3 years, we are exceeding new affordable housing delivery targets. Our affordable housing target is 300 affordable homes per annum. In the year 2018-19, there were 414 delivered. In the year 2019-20, there were 494 delivered. In the year 2021, which is still to be confirmed, we are expecting 383 to be having been delivered, and it's forecast for 445 affordable homes to be delivered in this year, 21-22, all exceeding our target of 300 by some way. Over the same period, we've also used significant portions of Section 106 money to support innovative new housing schemes, such as £580,000 for the Own Home Loan, the first completion of which took place just a week ago, £196,000 invested at Park Heights for 4 new flats for social rent, £181,000 for Chinham House, bringing back into use and refurbishing 10 units for rent, plus a local letting scheme to make sure they went to key workers or people with a strong connection to the Popley ward. £90,000 towards Viable's Cottage to bring those units back into use. Further, as a landowner with an engaging strategy to deliver affordable homes, we've also used our legal interest to deliver 13 units at Sandringham Court, 7 affordable units at Harlech Close with Vivid, Deeside and Paddock Road with Sovereign and HCC to deliver 100% affordable schemes.
Right.
That's 15 and 5 units respectively, and I'll go on under the supplementary.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. Councillor Bowes, you can ask for a supplementary. It is bound by 1 minute. Nope, you're waiving it. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So we move on to the third question, which is from Councillor Gavin James, and it's addressed to the Cabinet Member for Recycling, Waste and Regulatory Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Red carpets, red curtains, red lights and red ink do not work too well. Just say that. As per the order paper.
Okay. Brilliant. Right. So, Councillor Hayley-Eachus, you have 2 minutes in which to respond.
Madam Mayor, thank you, Councillor James. Eastchop Park, which holds Green Flag Award, is an extremely well-used park and is especially popular with families during the summer. The car park is currently free of charge and is known to be well used by shoppers and visitors to Bays and View, but this means that there can be less spaces available to visitors to the park. The management plan for Eastchop has long identified the potential to introduce parking charges to contribute towards the cost of maintenance. The running cost of the park includes litter picking and bin emptying provision and maintenance of play equipment, and the cost of running the public toilets, paddling pool and dancing fountains. The combined annual running costs exceed £70,000 each year, and the introduction of charges also supports the actions we are taking under the climate change strategy by encouraging those who live locally to walk to the park rather than drive. There is a proposal, as you say, to introduce car park charges at Eastchop Park, and this formed part of the budget proposals for 21-22, which went out to public consultation late last year. Only 3 responses were received during the budget consultation process in relation to this proposal, and they didn't deal with the possible impact on parking in nearby residential roads. However, the Council is required to undertake a statutory consultation before implementing any parking charges. This is currently ongoing. It closes on the 17th of July, and I can assure you that once the consultation is closed, I, along with officers, will review all the responses we have received and will consider what the charges we are putting forward. In respect of the potential impact on parking in nearby streets, the parking team have already surveyed and mapped the current parking arrangements in these areas. The impact on local roads will continue to be monitored if charges are introduced, and should additional controls be required to protect residents, then these will be implemented as necessary.
Thank you very much, portfolio holder. Councillor James, would you like to add a supplementary for 1 minute?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The nearest free parking, once Eastchop has charges, will be the community centre, the Roger Morris Centre. The Cabinet members no doubt aware that's run by Helping Hands for the Blind. It has become a community hub for those who are visually impaired. It relies on the fact it's got a car park, nice and close, which is easy and clear to get to the doors, where people are dropped off by the people, because obviously they don't drive themselves. It's a vital that this group that's possibly suffered more. They haven't enjoyed Netflix box sets like the rest of us. They have suffered more isolation than ever. They hope to get back to the Roger Morris Centre doing their groups. The leader started this meeting by talking about equality, diversity and inclusion. Can the portfolio holder show me where the equality assessment, impact assessment was done in relation to these charges at the time of the budget? Because I couldn't find it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Portfolio holder, you have 1 minute to respond to that supplementary. Thank you.
Thank you. I am sure an impact assessment would have been done as part of the overall budget. We have to do one as part of the budget, so it absolutely would have been done. And I can, if you want to feed what you've just commented, or that group does, into the consultation before the 17th of July about the group and the concerns you have over that parking area, then we can absolutely take that into consideration as part of the consultation and the decision.
Thank you, portfolio holder. Right, we move to number 19, and there are minutes for 17 meetings listed. Does any member have any questions relating thereto? Do I take it that you are all agreed to all the minutes to all 17 meetings? Agreed? Brilliant. Well, we have no reason to exclude the press and public, as we have no confidential or exempt items for discussion. That, fellow members, concludes the business for this evening, and I declare this meeting of the Council is over. May I thank you for being so accommodating. Thank you to all our officers, and thank you to the wonderful staff here at the Haymarket for being so welcoming to us once more. May I wish you all a safe journey home, good night, and God bless. Thank you.